what tikkun you Gentiles owe Yeshua today. I'm not talking about the Jewish people. I'm talking about the Gentiles. What price he paid for you, now you have to take upon yourself this burden of restoring him back to the gate, back to the city camp. As a matter of fact, we read this morning, I think in the Haftarah, we read in the book of Hebrew. And look at what it says. How Paul addressed the book of Hebrews, what he says. He said, the high priest carried the blood of animals into the most high place as sin offering. But the bodies are burned outside the camp. And so is Yeshua suffered outside the city gate to make the people holy through his own blood. Let us, here is the challenge Paul gave us, and the challenge remains today for us. It bet Adonai in every Messianic congregation in the world. Let us go outside the camp bearing the disgrace that he bore, for here we do not have an enduring city, but we look into the city to come. The challenge that Paul is giving us is that he made a breach for you, and by the fact that he made a breach, he is the Peretz, he now became the leper, and he is not allowed by Jewish law into the city. Yeshua is not welcome in Israel today until millions of Gentiles will stand. That's what's called the fullness of the Gentile. Until millions of Gentiles will stand and welcome him back as the King of the Jews in the context. When that happens, he finally will be allowed to return. But that means that you have to go out. You have to be cursed. You have to become the breach. You have to become Yeshua to Yeshua. I know you don't like to hear this, but that is exactly what I am telling you. You have to redeem the Redeemer so he can come and complete the work that he has begun. Are you with me? Are you with me? And that's going to happen only through rewriting. I call it rewriting the Besorah. Rewriting 2,000 years of hate in the name of Yeshua. Rewriting the gospel in a way that the Jewish people can understand it. You know, I had a very interesting week. There was a group of Calvinists, okay? A group of Calvinists that were writing against me on the internet all throughout, and they were saying, well, Rabbi Shapira is using the Zohar and the Kabbalah and this and that to present the gospel to the Jewish people. The Jewish people just need to read the Bible. Here is the issue, friend. You can give any Jew any Bible you want in any language you want. Until the context is being restored, it doesn't really matter what you're putting in front of it. What we have lost in the last 2,000 years is the context of the gospel. That's why Paul in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, he tells us, for those under the law, you presented the gospel as the way that they're going to understand this. Your job is not to argue with Jews, okay? People call me every week and they tell me, oh, I want to prove to you that you can eat meat and cheese. Or I want to prove to you you celebrate the festival in the wrong day. So I say, so what? Do you think that by proving this to see something, you're going to win any Jewish people to the Lord? Foolishness. It's a foolish, idealistic idea. Yeah, Messiah is going to correct us all. But we must, Paul gave us the principle that we absolutely must work in a Jewish context if we are to reach the Jewish people. And why do we want to reach the Jewish people? Because he is returning to Zion. And he cannot return to Zion if the context of him returning is not being met. That's why he is the leper today. You need to become the leper today so that he can come in. Let me ask you a question. When is the last time you have suffered for the gospel? Really suffer? When is the last time you were persecuted for your faith? When is the last time you were ridiculed? Those are the questions that in essence, when you suffer, rejoice. For every suffering that you go, somebody is going to come in. Rewriting the Besorah, what are we talking about? I guess those guys who were saying that I preach different gospel, they're right. Because the gospel that is preached today is not the gospel for the Jews. The gospel of the Calvinists is not the gospel of the Jews. I'm sorry. The Jews have not came to the kingdom. The gospel that we have to share is a gospel according to the Jews, which means simply that there has been a great tragedy that have taken place from the beginning. A love story that has been cut, and God in Mount Sinai have made his greatest cry that he himself revealed himself, to the point that even in the third wedding he took himself and he reduced himself to a form of a man. He said, it's me. Will you marry me now? So they didn't accept him. So the next time he comes, he's going to come in his full glory and power. Amen. Yes? Ask yourself this question. Why in Zechariah chapter 12 they see him coming down from heaven and they're not crying and they're not happy? He's coming as a redeemer. Actually, the Torah says that they eulogize. There is a eulogy over him. Eulogy you do in Hebrew over the dead, not over the living. Because they're going to look and say, you're dead, you're Esau. Do you wonder why they connect the Yeshua to Esau? Why the name Yeshua and Esau the same way? He is red. Isn't it interesting also that King David was red? He is masquerading in Esau, but he is really Ben David. Are you following what I'm telling you? And the reason they cannot see him as Ben David is because everybody who came in now said, you just get out. There's new tenants in spiritual Israel, and most of the church says, get out, Jews. This is our city now. We must rewrite the Besorah, and the only way a person can rewrite the Besorah, beloved, is taking upon himself the image of the Poretz. That is the gospel, friend. That is the real gospel. Taking upon yourself the burden and going outside the camp. Look what Yechezkel, the prophet Yechezkel, cried out to his generation, and I believe right now it's crying out for our generation, for our season. Yechezkel says the following, 22 seconds, chapter. He said, and I sought for a man among them that should make up the hedge, and stand him in the breach before me, for the land, that I should not destroy it. But he said, I have found none. I could not find a person that is willing to stand in the breach. I could not find a person willing to take upon himself the Mashiach role as the poet. Question today, you know, that I want to ask you, it's not just if are you willing to say, I am going to live a messianic life. That's the easy part. That is not the gospel. The gospel is simply that, am I willing to stand in the gap and not just saying, go outside the camp? Am I willing to go outside the camp and be cursed and crucified with Mashiach Yeshua so that he can come in, even if it's in that I stay out? Because promise you one thing, when he's coming back in, guess what he said? He's bringing with him all the saints. That's why Paul said, we don't look for the city now, we look for the city to come. In essence, he says, so what if you suffer a little bit now? That's what Paul says in no common language. So what if you suffer right now just a little bit? In the future, all the saints going to join him back in Jerusalem. So what if you suffer a little bit now? Come on, people of God, so what? It is worth it. Because I saw a prophetic picture of him paving a way, paving a door, and we came in, and this door has been disappearing. Now you have to pave this trench for him. And this trench is hard, and it's rocky, but you can do it through the Ruach HaKodesh. And when you pave the trench, and you're going to push you out of the trench, it's okay, because when he's coming in, the trench is going out. He's coming in his full power, and glory, and majesty, and don't worry, he's going to bring all the saints with him. Are we there? As a matter of fact, I want to show you what the Malbim says about this. The Malbim says about this. The one who's in commentary on Ezekiel 22, he said, the one who stands in the gap, in his strength, the one who stands in the gap, the generation will be saved. How many of us in the room here today want the generation that we live in now to be saved? I don't want my generation to perish. Do you want your generation to perish? There is a principle in the Torah. You see it in Avion now of today. With one atoning tzaddik, all the generation will be spared. That's the point Ezekiel is saying here. When you stand in the gap, the destroyer, who is the destroyer, friends? Hasatan. The destroyer would not be able to harm them even. This is the point. That's why Moses says in Deuteronomy 5:5, behold, I'm standing between heaven and earth. 1 foot here and 1 foot in heaven. I am the connector. You are the bridge between the city to the outside city. And so many times I want to choke believers. I do a lot of choking today. I need to come up with a better word. Okay, smack them on the head with my Bible. I say, well, I am saved. So what if you're saved? You might be saved, but the Messiah is outside. How can you rest? Isaiah says, for Zion's sake I will not be silent. In essence, he's saying Zion is not complete because Mashiach has not come yet. How can anybody rest? How can anybody drag his feet? Just as we do in the Messianic movement when Messiah is still outside the camp of Israel. Impossible.